get started, Jason?
Yep, I'm all set.
So I start with the script. Are you gonna do roll call? Script first? Okay. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedure authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance, the Fairfax County Athletic Council needs to make certain findings and determination for the record. It's a bit cumbersome, so I ask for your patience. First, because each member of the Fairfax County Athletic Council is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating, that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at appropriate volume for all other members. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each member participating in this meeting to state your name and location for which you're participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can be heard and hear every member. So Jason.
All right. Good evening. Braddock District, Marsha Pape Daniels.
This is Marcia. I'm participating from my office in the Braddock District. And Lula, it is very hard for me to hear you, and I've got my volume turned all the way up.
Thanks, Marcia. Braddock alternate, Marco Mira.
Hello, here testing mozzarella sticks at University Mall Theaters, enjoying your company.
Thank you, sir. Drainsville District, Greg Beckwith.
I'm here. I'm from my home in Great Falls, Virginia.
Thanks, Greg. And Drainsville alternate, Brian Lewis. Hunter Mill District, Jeremy Lee.
Jennifer.
I'm here.
Thanks, Jeremy. And Hunter Mill alternate, Harold Leff.
I'm here, although I'm having a little trouble with my cell phone signing in.
Okay, no worries. We can hear you okay, though. Lee District,
I'm
Lisa
working
Mickey.
from Hunter Mill.
This is Lisa Mickey from my home in Lee District.
Thanks, Lisa. Lee alternate, Bill Bright. Mason District, Barbara Lowry.
I'm here from my home in Mason District.
Thanks, Barbara. Mount Vernon District, Lester Munson. Or alternate, Bob Kirk.
I'm here calling in from Topsail Island, North Carolina.
Thank you, sir. Providence District, Steve McLaughlin.
I'm here from my home in the Providence District.
Thanks, Steve. And Providence alternate, Kelly Ego-Asawala.
I'm here from my home in Falls Church in the Providence District as well.
Thank you. Springfield District, Mike Thompson. Or Springfield alternate, Mark Heilbrun. Sully District, Gary Flather.
Gary here from my home in Sully District.
Thanks, Gary. Sully alternate, Mark Abbott.
I am here from my home in Chantilly.
Thanks, Mark. Diversity at large, Mark Hernandez. Or alternate, Eric Sohn. It looks like Eric signed on. Eric, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, cool. Thanks, Eric. Member at large, Catherine Quinn.
I'm here from my home in Reston. And Lula, I can hear you. Don't let the haters get you down.
And alternate, Emery Swope.
Hi, I'm here from my home in Reston.
Thanks, Emery. Town of Clifton, Jeff Stein. Town of Herndon, Roland Taylor.
It's Roland Taylor. I'm on my computer here at home.
Thanks, Roland. Town of Vienna, Tom Hanson.
I'm here, Tom Hanton, here at my home in Vienna.
Thank you, sir. Baseball Council, Rob Honey. Basketball Council, Steve Bergstrom. Or alternate, Stu Clark. Fast pitch softball, Susie Williamson.
Susie's here at Robinson High School.
Thanks, Susie. And alternate, Ryan Buchanan. Football Council, Mark Miena.
I'm here from Vienna, Virginia.
Thanks, Mark. And football alternate, Ted Hollingsworth.
I'm here from Oakland.
Thanks, Ted. Lacrosse Council, Marianne Wagner.
Jeff Deal here, standing in for Marianne Wagner.
Got it. Thanks, Jeff. Slow pitch softball, Christine Iddup. Soccer Council, Lula Bauer.
I'm here. Can you hear me now? No?
Barely, but yes,
Okay, hold on. How about now? Can you hear me now?
it's about the same.
I'm
Don't
here.
answer, you'll be a hater.
Never.
Soccer alternate Trish Moxie.
I'm here at my home in Springfield.
Thanks, Trish. Volleyball Council Rob Bailey. And alternate Anne-Marie Swope still here. Women's sports programs Jenny Cantwell. And alternate Hillary Richardson.
Hello, I am here calling from my home in Reston.
Awesome. Thanks, Hillary. Fairfax County Park Authority, Mike Thompson, not here. Kurt Lewis.
Here in my home in Fairfax.
Thanks, Kurt. Fairfax County Public Schools, Bill Curran.
This is Bill from my home in Fairfax. Megan has sent her regrets. She just talked to me, said she had a school board matter she had to attend to and would not be able to attend.
Got it, no worries. And Vicki Garner.
Vicki Garner's here from Gatehouse.
And I still see Paul Hatcher here as well.
Yeah, Paul Hatcher here from Centerville.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir. And NCS, Lloyd Tucker. Sarah Allen. Keisha Dodson.
I'm here from Fairfax.
Karen Navisato.
I'm here from my home in Leesburg.
And Mark Martino.
Yeah, also from my home.
Thanks. Did I miss anybody? Or is there any citizens here from the public? All right, we have a quorum, Lula, so you're good to continue.
Okay, great. So at this point, I will pass the virtual gavel to Gary Flatter that I may be heard to make the requisite motion. I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of the Fairfax County Athletic Council.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the emergency of the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures, the fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access for this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for the Fairfax County Athletic Council to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting, and that is such FOIA's unusual procedure, which requires the physical assembly of the Fairfax County Athletic Council and the physical presence of the public, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that the Fairfax County Athletic Council may conduct this meeting electronically via Microsoft Teams, and that the public may access this meeting by calling 157-142-95982. Is it so moved?
Any objections? I have a second to the motion.
Second the motion.
Motion's approved.
Finally, it is next required that all matters addressed on today's agenda must address the emergency itself as necessary for continuity of the Fairfax County government and or statutory required for or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of the Fairfax County Athletic Council lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved.
Is there a
Second the motion.
second the motion? Any objections? That motion is approved also.
Okay, very good, very well. Are there any citizens that are here to address the council? Screaming. Any presentations to the council?
Yes, Catherine Quinn has a presentation. Let me share my screen. Hold on one second.
I'm back.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, Jason's going to share some slides, and obviously we can share this with you. Some of you who were here a few months ago saw this presentation. Let me give you a little bit of background why I'm sharing this with you today. And I'm going to not take a whole lot of time and go through each one in depth, but I'll just give you kind of a quick overview and happy to answer any questions. So I'm doing some consulting work for Aspen Institute Sport and Society program and organizing their Project Place Summit, which is happening 2 weeks from today. And one of the initiatives coming out of the Sports and Society program and Project Play is the Children's Rights in Sports. Had a great call recently with some NCS team members, and we are hoping to have the county as well as the athletic council announce endorsements of the Children's Bill of Rights. So what I wanted to do, what I was asked to do, was kind of give an overview of the Bill of Rights, what it is, and answer any questions and see if we can get support of the athletic council members. So, Jason, if you want to move ahead, you can go back to nope. Go to the one that has all the logos on it. Yeah, that's the one. So the Children's Bill of Rights in Sports has been endorsed by, I think, over 80, probably close to 100 organizations now, everything from the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, ESPN, Under Armour. We have national governing bodies like U.S. Soccer, just hundreds of, I think close to 100 organizations that have endorsed it, along with athletes and community groups. You can go to the next slide. The Bill of Rights was, this is a summary of the committee that worked together to create it. The whole idea was to take a human rights perspective approach to youth sports. And so these are some of the just amazing minds that worked with the Project Play team to put together, human rights experts, CEO of Safe Sport, just to put together this framework. You can go ahead. If you want to, we'll get to the website again. So the thought was this: what are the 8 rights that every child has, with regard to sports? Who can provide the leadership to ensure this and enforce it? And then how can leaders mobilize and act strategically to enforce that and to use this framework within their organizations? You can go to the next slide. So again, this is a review of the goals, highlight the value of using human rights as a frame to grow access to sports, inspire organizations to adopt minimum standards for youth participation, and unlock the full power of sports to address a range of societal needs. The U.S. is, I think, one of the only countries that doesn't have a Ministry of Sport, and a lot of this was based on work we did with Norway and other countries that have a Ministry of Sports and have built some of these rights into how they approach it on a national level. So what we're trying to do is a call nationally, a call to leadership to start to use this as a framework. Jason, you can go ahead. So what are those rights? The 8 rights that all children have, first and foremost, to play sports. The right to a safe and healthy environment, to qualified program leaders, developmentally appropriate play, to share in the planning and delivery of those activities, so engaging the voice of children in creating your activities, an equal opportunity for personal growth, to be treated with dignity, and to enjoy themselves. We wanted to keep them high level and simple and just an easy way for people to shift their framework and how they're thinking about how they are presenting their programs. The next few slides, which we don't have to stop and dig into each, but they go into a little bit of a highlight into each of these sports. Again, happy to share it after. You adults, you don't need me to read it to you. So we can skip ahead to how to use the Bill of Rights, which is right there. It's a simple ask. In order to endorse it, there is really no heavy lifting on anyone's part. It's just an acknowledgement that we support this concept and are willing to willing to take this framework and review our policies and procedures and how we organize our sports. So again, some of the opportunities: review the policies with this children rights as a filter. So looking at your code of conduct, looking at your coaches training, etc. Educating the young athletes in your programs about their rights. Building youth into the decision-making processes. Are you asking the kids in your programs what they want and what their experience is like? Using the power of the permit. This is a big one for NCS, right? Using the power of the permit for use of field and facilities to promote program adherence, and unlocking funding to help programs align with rights. So an example of this, which this will be announced at the summit, it hasn't been announced publicly yet, but I'll share this with you. We have a large organization, a large foundation, national foundation, that will be announcing that an endorsement of the Bill of Rights is part of their grant funding program. So there's a lot of ways to promote and support this framework. There is a link here, and again, I will share it offline, with an editable template that you can use for your organization that helps you think about how to engage or how to use these rights as part of your, as a filter for your organization. The next slide. So if this is something that you as an individual, you as your organization, and we as a council would like to endorse, again, very light lift on our part. It's literally just saying, yes, I endorse this philosophy, sending a logo. Now I know the Athletic Council doesn't have a logo, but sending a logo to Marty Fox at Aspen Institute. His email is here and we'll send it offline. Saying yes, we would like to be included with the list of endorsers, and we're hoping to announce all of our new endorsers at the summit in a couple of weeks. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I'll open up for questions, is just a couple of things coming up that might be of note. As I mentioned, the annual Project Play Summit is 2 weeks from today, May 4th at Addie Field. It is sold out, but we will have some live streams available, some great, amazing content. If you are not on the mailing list, you can go to projectplay.us and sign up for the mailing list so you can get the announcement when it comes out on Tuesday. Of the full agenda. And in addition, we've just released a national coaches survey. To my knowledge, the first national survey of coaches. We're already getting amazing feedback. So if you wanted to share this with within your organizations and your coaches, the link is there, as.pn/coach survey. So that was a lot I just threw out at you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Mark Miana has one if you got time, Catherine.
Always got time for Mark Miana.
What prompted this? What was the triggering event, push, whatever, to initiate these the rights and sectors and plays? What prompted all this?
So Project Play is the signature, initiative of the Sport and Society program. And one of the things that the program has done is pull together leaders within their network to try to really facilitate change. And so they have an organization called Project Play 2020, and then now it's extended to Project Play 2024. And these leaders are, Nike, Under Armour, ESPN, all national governing bodies, USOC, et cetera. That group together, one of the decisions they made as a think group, that's not the right word, but it's been a long day, so I'm running out of words, was that we really need to center the voice of the child in our youth sports. And that if we could provide a framework that would set a standard for approaching youth sports from a human rights perspective and give some tools for organizations to be able to take that filter, that would be a tremendous boost to changing the youth sports culture in the United States. So this group worked with those experts that I showed you earlier in the slide presentation, the human rights experts and some legal experts, to create these 8 rights that they feel should be the foundation of youth sports.
And where will these standards come from if organizations either online here or around the logos that you shared decide to go in and do and look and review and do this? What standard do they measure their program by to see if they're above the line, below the, who's the Kamehameha that blesses all this?
So the idea is it's a vision, and the enforcement is really, it's sort of self-enforcement. It's more of a, here's a template and an approach. It's not necessarily by signing on, you have to, tick all these boxes, or there's no one, checking up on you and certifying you necessarily. It's more of a vision and a self-enforcement and a visibility, right? By signing on, you're saying, okay, I'm going to hold myself to these standards and I'm going to take this approach to my programs.
Okay. I think the county executive should designate Mark Martino to do this for enforcement. Clearly, I think he'd be best for that, and at no salary increase, I might add. So, Thank you.
Gary,
No,
you have your
thank
hand raised.
you.
Gary, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think the Aspen Institute for years has been a pretty cool guidance, if you will, for sports to utilize. And I just wanted to say, Catherine, I think it's a great idea. SYA, myself and Jeff Stein have both signed up for the Project Play Summit. We'll be there. I'm looking forward to it to hear what I can hear about it. I learned about it through Little League. Little League endorses the program, and that's an international organization. So we thought if they endorsed it, sounds like a good program. So we've gotten some good stuff out of it. So thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Gary. Actually, I did see you on the registration list, so make sure you find me and say hello. Actually, one of the great panels that I think you'll really enjoy is we have a whole panel on revitalizing in-town rec leagues, and one of the speakers on that panel is Gene Batras from Major League Baseball and MLBPA, talking about some of the work they're doing on the youth levels, as well as someone from the NBA talking about NBA juniors. So I think there's going to be some amazing takeaways, and we'll be sure to share any recaps with everyone after.
We'll look you up, no problem.
I'll be there.
Very good. Any other questions? Probably didn't hear me.
I have one more question, Lula. How come when you read the script, we could hear you perfectly and now we can't?
I don't know. I was yelling, I have to say.
I think you were closer to the screen when you were doing the script. That might help.
How about that?
That's much better.
Much better.
Good.
Can you climb inside your computer?
Yes, I can.
So I think one of the, I don't know that it's appropriate for me to make any kind of motion, but I think, and Karen, please chime in because you were on the call, with me and Lloyd, and trying to remember who else was on that call. But, I think the idea is we would love to present a unified message from Fairfax County as a thought leader in this space, that we endorse this Bill of Rights. We're hoping to have NCS on board as well. So Karen, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add, or, what you think the most appropriate next steps are, with the hopes of having an announcement at the summit.
Yeah, I mean, I think NCS, we're in support of this, most definitely, and I think it's appropriate for you to make a motion. Catherine, I think that's what we talked about with Lloyd, and he's going to try to be there at the summit to present it or hand it off or whatever. Is that what you remember, Keisha?
Yes, and a board matter was presented to the board last week in support.
Okay.
Amazing. So I would like to move that the Fairfax County Athletic Council endorse the Children's Bill of Rights in sports.
I second it. That's Gary.
Any objections? Any discussion? So moved.
That's wonderful. Thank you all.
There you go, Catherine. Good job, Catherine.
Something done. Good job, everybody. It's a wonderful framework. I think it's amazing, and I hope you all feel free to reach out to me if you have additional questions about how to engage it with your organizations.
I would love to reach out to you, and my question is going to be this. I loved one of the Bill of Rights when you say ask the children, but how do you do that? Do you do it through a survey? Or, I mean, when you have 1,600 recreational children in your club, how do you do that? So I will be reaching out to you to get that information, because I would love to hear their little answers.
Yes, that's a phenomenal question, and I will tee you up that there's another announcement coming at the summit that may just answer that for you.
Perfect. Very good. Thank you so much.
Please do reach out. Thank you all.
All right, moving on. Approval of the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
You have a second?
Gary's on mute, so he can't second.
Gary seconds the motion, even though he's on mute.
I thought you were just imitating me, Gary. Any objections? So moved. So chairman report, I have something just really quickly. Is is Bill Curran on, Jason?
He
He
actually
did.
just texted,
He did?
Yeah, he
just
messaged that he had to step
stepped
away for a minute.
so just
Oh,
hang tight on that. Just hang tight on your,
On my report? Okay,
yeah,
so,
until he gets back.
all right, well, let's go ahead and move forward with committee reports, and then I'll get back to mine. I will yield the floor to committee reports. Gary, did you have a report?
I do, and I actually have a report, a letter format. I'll read it quickly, and then I'll submit it to Jason to share with everybody so you can review it. But at the end of it, we'd like to request a meeting at the end of it. So just kind of a summary of the subcommittee and what's happened since October when we formed. We had the full support and vote of the Athletic Council to form the subcommittee. The purpose of the committee was to address concerns of the Athletic Council members for the increased number of cancellations, last-minute cancellations, school programs running into community use time, lack of communications on FCPS construction projects, and working to find ways and working together to improve communication amongst all the factions within Fairfax County. We've had multiple meetings discussing the issues over the last 6-8 months between all the factions involved. We have agreed that this is not a new issue and that community users have always had an advocate from NCS that worked hard to find resolution to some of the ongoing problems. The understanding of the committee members was that prior to COVID, we felt things were improving, but when COVID hit and more recently, the problems have escalated. On March 16th at the Athletic Council meeting, we were advised by Vicki Garner that the Community Use Office had put in place a new policy that, and I may be saying this wrong, Vicki, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a new policy that mandated all correspondence between community users would go through NCS, and then NCS was required to go through Community Use Office for resolution. At this meeting, we asked for a copy of the policy and/or policies, but have yet to receive a copy. I don't know, that might be a oversight. Vicki indicated that all was going very well with the new policy and that the new policy was well received. However, during the meeting, there was a lot of back and forth conversations, and I think the impression of the committee, the subcommittee, was that there were some concerns, and Vicki admitted that there were some issues that we would work through, and that there was pushback from the community users as well as DSAs for the implementation of the new policy. A follow-up meeting of the subcommittee was held last week on April 12th. Vicki was not there, but Paul Hatcher was present. Identified that his office was following established FCPS policies, noting specifically Form 8420, and that schools had ultimately had the right to cancel up to and including day of use by community users. He also stated if we wanted them to do differently, that we would need to have the policy change, and the only way to do that is to go through the school board. We also discussed fees, and he agreed that there should be some form of compensation. He agreed with that concept, but indicated, and I think we all agreed with Paul, that that would be a difficult process, but one we probably would like to pursue. The subcommittee members have concerns that we believe Athletic Council members will agree with us that the advocacy for community users is not quite where we want it to be. There have been close to 300 cancellations by schools since March 1st, since the implementation of the new policy on March 1st. Many of these cancellations are for events that are well known at the beginning of the year by the schools, which clearly indicates that they're not following their own policy by submitting the information to NCS through community use. And there's a transfer date, I think is somewhere in the middle of January. There's a transfer date that has to occur that John Chapman had shared with us earlier. NCS has noted that cancellations are far worse this year than ever before. They also recognize that communications are improving with the new policy. However, late cancellations are still a significant issue. On behalf of the subcommittee, I would formally request a meeting that includes several members of the Athletic Council, key leaders of FCPS, the school board, the Park Authority, NCS, and the Community Use Office to openly discuss changes to the policy itself, as well as to introduce several actions we feel will support improving the overall communication effort, which is the original reason for forming the subcommittee. So that's my report. Sorry, it's a little long-winded, but I felt like it was important to put it on paper. I will submit that, but I would also just open the floor to any of the subcommittee members and any of the Fairfax County factions that have been involved with this. I know Paul's on, Vicky's on, several people are on that can add to it. But I think the overall concern is that without question, the cancellations have escalated. And the cancellations, many of the cancellations that we're seeing are either last minute or cancellations that have been known for the entire school year, and we're stuck with losing fields and losing gyms. I just recently in my own program, and I know Mark can speak to this as well, we lost an entire complex for an entire Saturday for some type of, I'm not even sure what it was, a band ensemble or something. But the response that we got was that they needed the school for that event. So I know that Rob Honey wanted to say something, but he's got a baseball game tonight, so he couldn't be on. But I know Mark is on and Lisa's on. So if either one of you wanted to comment, that would be great.
Yeah, Gary, I'll jump in here if it's okay with everybody. If everybody can hear me, I've got a little background noise, but yeah, along that line, Gary, and thank you for putting that together. The subcommittee has been, just so everybody has a little bit more detail on that, we've been trying to understand first how we can positively affect any communication change that needs to occur. What I've concluded myself after sitting with committee members and talking to various people within the county is that it's going to be difficult to achieve any change if in fact the FCPS folks are not interested in working with us. And I can only assume that that's the case. And I see Vicky's hand is up, which is good because I wrote a note to Vicky last week and I haven't heard back. So I'd like to hear what she has to say. But I think it's most important that all of us recognize, and I say all of us reaching out to FCPS, understanding that we've been really, I think, strong teammates and partners for many years. And right now we're feeling as though we don't have a teammate. We certainly feel as though we don't have an advocate within the FCPS with regard to any usage that we have. And it's not, and Gary and I have always gone back and forth with everybody on this, and we act as though it's us personally. It's like this is happening to Gary or this is happening to Mark. We are representing, as all of us are, huge groups of people and the volunteer work that we have to beg for. And when they then come forward and support, and then they get their schedules like on a Saturday, and they've got referees involved, they've got all their kids coming, and then we get a closure with really very little understanding of why we're getting it, other than it seems as though someone's not following their own policy when we read the 8420, and now Gary and I have gone through that pretty extensively. So again, I think we're just reaching out, and I know Gary has said this, and without beating it down too much, but every time we get together, we say it just simply isn't equitable. It's not fair, it's not right, and how do we affect change in that regard? So That's my 2 cents. You can hear that I'm a little bit frustrated with it. I'm a lot bit frustrated, and I think all of us are. And it's just time that we address it rather than it seems as though there's not a willingness to do it. So I hope there will be soon.
And I want to just say one quick thing before Vicky speaks, but I do want to make sure that everybody understands this is not a CYA-SYA thing. I have communicated with Karen and Mark Martino constantly about changes, and they'll attest to my request. My request is not for the two organizations, but across Fairfax County is the issue. I mean, if it was just my organization, I would have to step back and go, okay, what am I doing wrong? You know, but I just want to make sure everybody understands. It's on behalf of Fairfax County. So, Vicky, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Hello, all. There's a lot to unpack there, so we'll try. I appreciate the candor and the straightforwardness. First of all, I'd like to change some words here. It's a process, not a policy. Policy, FCPS is really, we have policies, regulations, and notices, so I don't want to confuse those two. What our process is for communication between ourselves and NCS has changed. The policy, which is FCPS, has not changed. So that's not changed. We just changed the communication flow. On the email to you, Mark, I did respond back to Mark, Paul and I did respond back to the school board member round that was included on that. I'm assuming that they will be responding back to the community. So they were given the response today from community use. Basically, it says what I believe Paul Hatcher said last week, and Paul can speak for himself in a second, is that we are following 8420. Now, am I happy with the schools not putting in all their calendars? We tell them that constantly, but I think we have to remember too, and I believe it was said earlier that before COVID, we were on a good path. After COVID, things have gotten a little out of whack. Well, I think that can be said for just about everything that we're experiencing now as a society in general. Around at the beginning of the year, we didn't know exactly. There were still masks in the classrooms. There were still restrictions at the beginning of the school year. There were still some COVID policies. Schools didn't know, and they were slow to getting the start back for their calendars for the school year. We didn't know. And when they did start putting those in, they were proactive and putting in their calendars. On a normal year, we do have that they put in their calendars by August and then review again in January. We constantly remind them of those incidents. But some of the cancellations we've had of late, where you're saying that you had a lot, we have had a lot, but we've also had a lot of rain, which has caused the outside FCPS sport groups to come into the gyms and cancel out of things. I'm not giving excuses, just facts of the business round. I raised an eyebrow on not an advocate for the community use groups. I believe that I have represented that I'm a very strong advocate for the community use groups, having been a part of them for 10 years, coaching my son and then throughout the county with different organizations. BRYC, Parkway when they used to be around, I-9, which I know is not part of you all, but kind of part of you all. So I do believe that you have a strong voice in FCPS. The restrictions that we have are regulation bounds. The school can, as I think Paul Hatcher, by 8420, cancel if they have a need that comes up. Now, maybe they have a band concert, and the director for the band concert is sick and they have to reschedule to the following week. Those are things they can't foresee. But what we do, and I can strongly say that this is constant, and every single time we go back to the school, every time there's a cancellation put in and said, tell us what's going on. What are you doing? Every single time. And we question what they're doing. Can you, are you going to use it the whole time? Can you use it maybe an hour or less? Are you going to be done at 8? Could it maybe come in at 9, which happens a lot for FNCS. We open it back up at 9. So we are advocating, but the fact of the matter is there's a finite number of gyms and fields. There's an ever expanding on both sides, FCPS and the community, of usage needs. That's going to always create a conflict, no matter what you do. So I'm gonna, unless there's any questions for me right now, I'm gonna turn it over to Paul if he has anything to say. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm here. No, and then Mark, exactly what Vicky said. So when you sent the email to school board member, we were asked for detail, and I reiterated, page and a half of exactly what we talked about last week. And I kind of laid out how, yes, it was exacerbated by COVID, but just for sheer numbers and what's going on and the lack of space, it's not going to end when everything gets back to normal. We're still going to have issues with cancellation just because of the pressure on the spaces. And so I left it up. I would be happy to revisit or provide detail for 8420 if they so want to do that. But that's kind of where we are. Is, like I had said last week, I tried to lay out as best as I could how we manage the spaces per the regulations and policies that dictate how we do that. And I do agree that the cancellations do cause a lot more actual cancellations now than just change of venues, because all of the spaces are typically more used now than they were 5, 6, 7 years ago. In the past, it could be moved more easily. Can't be moved anymore, and I don't like to see anybody not be able to have an event. So we're with you. It's just a matter of what do the actual decision makers want to do with this going forward, because what you're at now is a rights of space use, or use of space rights, however I want to say that, between the community users and the schools. And when they bump up against each other, we have a regulation in place now that clearly spells out what happens or who gets to make that call. We do, as Vicky said, always go back to the school, because we come to these meetings, we would love to be able to say everybody got a space this week, but we know that you're going to affect kids and participants. So we do go back to the school and we say exactly what Vicky said, which is, are you absolutely sure you need it? Are you absolutely sure you need it for the full time? Because you are displacing other groups that are currently there. But ultimately, if they say, yes, we absolutely need it, they currently get to do that by regulation. And so, Mark, we've basically followed up that request for detail with exactly what we talked about last week. And as community use, we're going to manage by the regulations and policies in place. If they want to review those policies, because I don't know the last time that policy had been reviewed. It was in place when I got into my position. And so we do have a lot more pressure on the spaces from the county users. And so I don't know what type of thought process that might put into place when we review 8420, but at least we're getting it to the people that could actually affect change in those areas. So we're doing what we can to try to put it forward and actually get it to a decision going forward, so that we can, whatever the decision is going forward, we can be as productive as we can in helping you guys.
Yeah, and I appreciate all that you guys are saying, and I appreciate the challenges we all have. What I would request, as I did in that letter, is that the information is more forthcoming. The responses are from the leadership groups that we all have in the county. I think they need to be included in discussions. When you talk about being an advocate, it's hard to imagine that we do have an advocate when we see what we see on our end and get very little detail about it. With detail, what you're talking about, it makes sense. And no one here is going to complain with the notion that FCPS has full control of their facilities. In fact, I think on our committee, we all agree you should. We all agree that the 8420 is, you're not going to give up. You can't give up the full control of your facilities. And no one is asking that. What we're asking is that we're involved in that process, because we're held to these, when we submit all of the requests that we have to use FCPS space, we're held to those dates. Now, I understand COVID and I understand all that. We have those same issues that we could talk to you guys about with regard to all of us probably on this call, we're dealing with COVID and not knowing if you're going to even be able to put on a youth sports program in the spring for the last couple of years. And then how many kids would come? We don't know how many are going to come, because We're getting, all of the mixed signals from all the authorities and on and on and on. We all have those same issues, but without the communication, we're left thinking that, wait a minute, I got at the beginning of the season, 8 Thursdays in a row as an example at a certain middle school. And within 4 weeks, now I've only got 3 of those. Yet I have a coach that is assigned for practice there. What does he do? And so those are the challenges that we all have. And again, there's not an easy fix here, but what I'm requesting, as I did in that letter, is I'm requesting more communication. And if those dates aren't met, I think it's only right that we are brought into the conversation, because if it's been allocated to, in this case, any youth group, then, and it's going to be pulled from them, I would like to think that there would be some discussion with that group telling them why, since that group did do what they were supposed to do, got the request in on time, was allocated the space, and now we have to go back and try to work it on our end. And it's a very tricky thing, as you guys can imagine. So again, I think it's just communication. And I think that has been, that needs to be improved.
And just to follow up, we do communicate with NCS as when there's a cancellation. Now, I don't know if we go into complete detail as to exactly why the cancellation happened, such as coach wasn't available last week or band leader wasn't available last week, and now he's available and the school's requesting the space now. I don't know if we go to that finite level of detail, but as far as the cancellations, as soon as we know about them, they are put forward to NCS. So I'm not, and again, per regulation, the school can basically say, we need that space for whatever reason, and we have to give it to them by regulation. Now, we do fight back, like I said, to say, hey, do you absolutely need this because you're going to be displacing people? But that's why I was trying to explain, that's how we have to manage the space per our regulation. And so, yes, going forward, if there needs to be a change to that, or if some other detail of that comes to you, or in fact, they want to revisit what the cancellation time period is, because right now it's up to and including day of. So if and I don't know, I'm just speaking out of the box here, but if they want to revisit, hey schools, if you need to give 10 days or whatever, but then we come up against weather delays or weather cancellations, which is usually day of. So there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of different factors into what this is, but I totally hear, we hear that the cancellations are an issue. We do hear that, and it's just how do we do as best we can going forward to try to minimize that.
I just have a couple of quick things. Paul, schools do get us the cancellation. You guys know that. It's not that I think about, because they know that schools get priority. It's the timeliness of the cancellation. So that is something that I think we need to work on, and whether we are working together with our attorneys on a new MOU. And I think that might help with some stuff, what Paul was just saying, it's 10 days early or whatever. It's the timeliness of it. And it is not the band director getting sick, and that's why we have to cancel it. That happens. It's okay. But it's those events that that they knew about, and they year, and it's not on their calendar, and we send these permits out, and what's frustrating to our community groups is that the school people do not understand the impact of them not doing that small thing. Because it's like Mark said, it's referees and it's families and grandparents. Everyone's planning to go, and we got no place to move them to. So it's the timeliness of the events that they know. They know about the band counselors. They know about the back to school nights. They know, and they're not on the. We end up plugging in the schedules, send them out to our groups, and then they get canceled the day of or the day before. That's what I think we could work on. There's no question that our athletic groups understand that schools get priority. There's no question there. And I'm hoping that as we work through the process, that some of this will hopefully get better. And Vicky's right. Vicky ad nauseum tells these people, you got to get them in early, you got to get it in early, and they don't. And that's the solution we need to figure out, I think.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna follow up and then ask if anybody else on the committee, on the athletic council wants to chime in. But I think Paul and Vicky, one of the key issues, it's not the rainouts. We understand rainouts. We understand that the high school teams need to go inside because they don't have a place to play, except for the fact that most of them do have turf fields, and there shouldn't be rainouts for that, but there are other issues involved. And we've done this for long enough that we understand when issues occur like that. But like Karen said, the key thing that can be pushed is, and maybe it needs to be pushed from the school board, like you said last week, is the schools are not following the policies that are put in place. And the policies, as I understand it, is the transfer date, and most of these things. Lisa, on the meeting last week, indicated that in her district, she meets with the schools at the beginning of the year because they all know at the beginning of the year what these activities are. And if you look at the 100+ cancellations that I've received recently, almost every single one of them is like Karen said. They're issues and items and things that happened that they've known about for the entire year, and they're not following their own rules. So I appreciate what you guys are saying, and I do appreciate the work that community use has to do. It's not an easy job. We all recognize that. But the advocacy, I think, is trying to push back on the schools that, hey, you're not following the procedures that you're supposed to follow, and it's affecting community use. And we're supposed to have a partnership between FCPS and community use, and we've established community use time. Karen's been doing this probably longer than anybody other than Mark Miena, and she can tell you that, community use has been an established time slot. It got pushed when the school board came out and changed the school times for elementary, middle, and high school, and we adjusted to that. It was frustrating for a lot of us, but we did adjust for it. But now it seems like community use is just being squeezed to where it's almost, like I've gotten 15 requests this year alone for refunds. And the specific issue that was addressed was too many cancellations. I'm not paying for this. I've never had refund requests because of cancellation in my 30 years of doing this. Never. This is the first time I've ever seen somebody say, I want my money back because I'm not getting the practice and games that I was told I was going to get through the program. So at any rate, that's my 2 cents. We do appreciate, Paul and Vicky, what you guys have to go through. I just wanted to throw it over to Lisa, who is on the committee, and maybe any other council members that would like to say something, and then we can move on from here.
Say Harold and Lula have their hands raised. Harold, go ahead.
I would like to know how we would approach the school board to affect a change to the regulation, to the policy. Because as long as that policy stands like it is, we're going to continue to see cancellations on the day of, just because somebody forgot to do it 3 months in advance. And that's where we're getting killed. If it was a week ahead of time that somebody's canceling because the band director's sick, that's no problem. We can work with that because we're not going to be paying referees to show up. We're not going to have parents of several hundred kids driving their kids to a field and just to have it canceled. So I think that as long as that policy is in place and there's no hardship on the school representative that forgot to book the space in advance, it's going to go on like this forever. And the other thing I'd like to say, and I've been saying this for 29 years because I've been on this council longer than Mark Miena, and that is that The community users are the same kids that go to the school. I don't know where the schools think these kids come from, if they think that they're coming from another county or if they're all homeschooled or what. But these are the kids, these are the 80 to 90% of the kids that don't make the varsity or JV team. They don't make the band. So it's the same kids that go to the school that should have an equal right to use the school facilities. But unfortunately, as long as this policy is in place like it is, they're not going to have that right. I will yield my time to someone else.
Harold, are you okay?
No, I'm a little pissed off.
More words you said in 5 years.
Well said.
Welcome back, Harold.
I think,
Yeah,
Lula,
thank
you
you.
had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I commend you both, Mark and Gary, for your composure. And the reason why I've been so quiet is because I don't think I would be able to have the same graceful composure that you have. I've been doing this before Karen. It was Jay Powell that I worked under, and then came Karen Avasado. I called Gary because at the beginning of the season, it was the first time since I've been doing this that I felt like I was going to cry. And I'm not that kind of person. You all have said eloquently everything that goes into scheduling, everything that we have to do with the different leagues for our kids, for the different level of talent that we have for our kids, the referees. And I will say that Lee Mount Vernon, when there was 9 Title IX schools in Fairfax County, I know there's 14 now, 6 of them are in our area. We have the highest need of scholarships in Fairfax County. It's difficult. They don't have this kind of money. And Gary, when you said they asked for refunds, I mean, just to pay the registration fee, and we give so many scholarships. We give $196,000 worth of scholarships to our families. And then to have to cancel at the last minute, like you said, and we have no place to put these children, and they want their children to get out to socialize. They want their children to play, and they worked so hard to get them registered for organized sports. And then we're faced with this at the beginning of the season. We had a stadium field pull out from underneath us that we should have known about before the permits went out. Yesterday, I got 3 locations at West Po that were canceled. And it was because of an activity that they've had on their schedule. But then, and I think this is another issue we need to talk about, it's not being used on the facility. It's because they fear that there's a parking issue. So they canceled our activity, where a lot of our families could just drop them off at the field and not create an additional parking issue. So I think that's something else that I'd like to have addressed, is when they cancel they're canceling at the last minute, these 3 events they've had on the calendar for the entire year, but they're given a reason that they're fearful of the parking situation. I think that that's a reason that they should not use. I think we can get around that reason. But anyway, I commend you. It's been very, very difficult. My thinking is, as I said, I've been doing this for a long time. I think there's got to be hard, non-negotiable policies for the activity office, for the activity departments, because that's where it's being allowed to happen. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, and I would say, Lula, to back that up, Paul did mention in the, I believe Paul may be speaking out of turn, but in our meeting last week, we did talk about that very issue, and we talked about refunds, and we talked about compensation for things like that. And Paul indicated that they would support that idea, but obviously there's a lot involved in that. But I think there's a lot to that item that we did not talk about, but when cancellations are done for parking reasons, that is very difficult for us to swallow. Many times, all of us get cancellations for a PTA meeting, and they close the gym, and they close the fields. And I don't know very many PTA meetings that have more than 20 people attending. To say there's not enough parking is very, very challenging and difficult, especially the way some of these schools are laid out. There's parking near fields that are not in the front of the school, that would provide an opportunity to still be able to use a field when something's going on inside. So that is another issue, Lula, that really was not part of our discussions, but we will continue to carry that forward. I would ask if, Lula, if you don't have any other questions, if nobody else has anything, I would just like to submit the letter to Jason to share with the athletic council, so those that were not on it can read it, and we will schedule another meeting and move forward. And to answer Harold's question, I am going through the process to find out what the procedures are to meet with the school board to find out how to change policy, because we do need, there needs to be something. There needs to be something that says if the school is not doing their job right, there's got to be a penalty. I know I get a penalty. You know, I have to notify the school 15 days in advance to use a classroom. And a lot of my meetings, I just go to the library now because it's not worth my time. But 15 days is a lot of time to notify of a cancellation from a community user side. There needs to be maybe not an equal, but there needs to be something that's in place for that.
Gary, I do have one ask. We know this is all sports across the board, but I am also the president of the soccer council, and people are asking, and like you said, it's not CYA, it's not SYA, it's all of us, all the clubs. So can I ask you if there's something that I can share with them, because they are very interested in this particular topic. I mean, if I can share the letter, or if you can give me something I can share with them to let them know that we're still looking into this and there's been progress made.
I would say absolutely. I'm fine with that. I will get with Karen and maybe Steve McLaughlin with his experience on as a chairman to see what can be shared. I know I know this letter becomes public record if I put it, if I submit it to Jason. So I think, you know, I think that would be fine to share, but anything past that, I would need some guidance on that.
Okay. They're asking. Yes.
I think Steve has going to comment.
Yeah, I'd just say anything that you put into the record in the minutes should be shared, can be shared with any member of the public.
Okay.
That's how I would read this. It's a public record as soon as it goes into the minutes.
Perfect. So yeah, you can use the letter then. That would be fine.
Very good. Thank you. Okay.
And I will just tell you guys that we, NCS and FCPS, Paul and his staff, Vicky, we are continuing to meet to work on these issues. And like I said, our attorneys are meeting with us to help with the MO. We hear you, and we'll just continue to work together to make things better for you.
If I may add to, please, this is Vicky. Around on the letter where you refer to policy, if you could change that to process, that would be appreciated, because it's not policy, it's process.
Understood. Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you.
I'll do that before I submit it. I think I had a couple of other errors. I'll clean it up before I submit it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, Lula, we'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, I'm going to go and revert to my chairman report. So is Bill back on the call? Bill Curran?
He indicated that
I'm here. Yeah, I'm back.
Oh,
Sorry, it just took me a minute to get to my microphone.
Oh, that's okay. I just wanted to follow up on our committee meeting that we had for non-high school sports participation with the club. So we met. It was a great meeting. A lot of thought and comments were created out of this meeting. The number one was, it wasn't soccer related, even though this is happening. There you are, Bill. Even though it was basically soccer clubs that are not permitting them. So we thought the first thing that we should do would be to create a survey. So we created a survey with 5-6 questions, and that survey is going to be, we sent questions that we felt would be necessary for us to gather data. And if we had more data, it would have more strength behind us. So NCS is creating this survey, and then we're going to send it out to all the athletic directors, and then we're going to ask them to send it to every one of their coaches on staff, assistant coaches, head coaches, and then collect that data. Some of the questions are, have you heard any of your students or any of your players say they're not trying out because their club coach or their club or somebody is telling them? Go ahead, Bill.
This is a survey you're sending to FCPS athletic directors?
Karen, what
Is
did
that
we
what you
just
said?
to send out to their coaches?
Okay, we can't do that. There's a process in Fairfax County Public Schools we have to follow to do that. So it's not something that can just be sent. It's got to go through. Now, I'm not saying it can't happen or it won't happen. And I appreciate everything you're doing, but I got to go. We just had this long conversation about process. It's a process, and I have to follow that bureaucratic process to a degree. And I'm sorry I have to, but please loop me in on that, on what you're doing, because it's the first I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think what we need to do, Bill, is I'll send you the questions, and then maybe you have that discussion or whatever with your ADs. I don't know. You do whatever you need to do your thing. We won't send it to anybody. We'd be sending it to Vicky. And so you could, just kidding, Vicky. We can talk through how you want to handle that.
Yeah, I just got to make sure that it gets the proper approval, because any survey now in FCPS goes through a thing, whether it's student-based or faculty-based or staff-based or administrative-based or anything like that. So I just need to make sure I check that box, that I go through that to make sure it works. So we can do this, but I got to get that done first before it can go out to them.
Sorry to make you nervous. Maybe I wasn't articulating that well, but our thought process was, how can we collect more data and let the data drive the solution? And so we came up with a survey. We're going to collect we created the questions, we sent it around, we wordsmithed the questions, and then Keisha, Lloyd, and Karen were then going to follow up with how we're going to be able to use that survey, or is there another way we can collect that data? So that's sort of where we are right now. We were just
what would be and again, I'm sorry, since I'm just catching up with this, what would be the use of the data? What's that going to drive? Because I'm going to be very frank here, and I don't want anyone on this board to not think I'm appreciative at all. I mean, hopefully you all see me as being very appreciative of all that you do. When we met and I presented this, it seems a pretty cut and dry situation. It was overwhelming, this group said, any group that does this doesn't work. So are we talking about collecting data so we can word any change and from there it goes to the allocation policy committee. So again, I'm willing to, whatever they come forward with is 100% fine, and live by the will of this group, but on this issue. But in the back end, what's the point of the data? What's that going to tell us? Because we're going on hearsay is what, and I haven't seen it, so I'm guessing that's it. But what is the point of that data point? What are we looking to gather from that?
So I am going to refer to Karen or Keisha, because it had something to do with information for the attorney. I mean, in terms of not allocating fields to a club that's not allowing their players to play on their high school. So Karen, I'm going to let you address that.
Yeah, I think what when we discussed it with Lloyd and Sarah, it was just how big is this issue? Is it just for this one team? Is it just this one sports? We've heard that basketball might be doing the same thing. How big is the issue? And before we can send out a blast statement that this is, I mean, we all agree that the statement, we're behind the statement, but I think we just wanted to know how the issue was countywide before we figured out how to a plan to address it. Is that correct, Keisha?
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It's just to get it some more data to back up next steps to see how widespread this was and what data points we could have. So it wasn't so that we could have it more than just we heard about this particular sport, but to look at everything as a whole. That was the reasoning.
And again, I'm supportive of it. I will go back to what I said when I originally brought this up, which I think was 2 months ago. If it's one club, I don't want them on my fields. And I know that's not within my level of authority. It's not something I can just do, but I will be very clear that if it's one club and one kid who's making that decision, it going against everything that One Fairfax stands for. It goes against what our intent is. It goes against everything that this group that is so close to each other and so friendly with each other just discussed for 45 minutes, and that we're trying to provide an equitable access piece to it, which I fully agree with. So I want to be very clear where I stand on this. I have no problem collecting that data point, but I'm going to continue to beat that drum that I don't want them on FCPS fields. That's how they're going to treat our high school kids.
Yeah, and I think, Bill, we're 100% supportive of that, even if it's just one team and one club. We just need to do this one piece first, but we're 100% just one team. We're 100% behind you.
I appreciate that. If you can the sooner you get me the survey, I can get it vetted through the proper channels to make sure the question, again, this shouldn't be a hard one. This should be a very easy one. I just need to make sure I take care of it. To get it through the channels and get it out.
And I do want to echo Karen. We are 100% behind you. Absolutely. If it's just one child, and unfortunately, those boys are near and in my community. So I'm very, very close to the issue. And as you know as well, I've coached in Fairfax County High School for a number of years, and I think every child should have the opportunity to represent their high school. I'm very passionate about that. So that's my report. Reports, Jason, for the sports reps.
Yep. Baseball council, Rob is not here. Basketball, fast pitch softball, Susie.
It's sunny. People are playing. So seems like we've had some good numbers with the community, and I'll just kind of save stuff for when you get to hear me in a couple more minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie. Football council, Mark and Ted.
I'll go first and then pass it off to Ted. Now, all the clubs are trying to gear up and adjust to what COVID has done and the impacts and going forward on those nuances. I'm sure everybody has their USFL and XFL season tickets. You got those bought. That's good. See if you can recoup some funds, but kind of in the middle right now. So, Ted, why don't you share what FCYFL is doing?
Yeah, I think the only other thing we would add to that is, and I don't know the extent to which it's a challenge for other sports, but just to raise it, we had a presentation from some vendors talking about the extent to which the supply chain disruptions are going to impact clubs' ability to provide equipment. Obviously, football is a sport with an awful lot of equipment, both which the kids wear and also which they use in practices and in games, but tremendous shortages and disruptions of supply. And basically if you're not starting to buy stuff now, you need last minute stuff, you're going to be out of luck. So again, it was, I think, a real wake up call for some of our member clubs, and something that other sports just want to make sure you're all aware of.
Hey, Ted.
Yes, sir.
Didn't you steer all the clubs to purchase their necessary items from SYA and CYA, since they're the largest equipment providers in the domestic United States?
They're free to buy wherever they want.
Football report's done. Next.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, guys. Lacrosse council, Jeff filling in for Marianne.
Yeah, we're about halfway through the spring regular season. Happy to report that there have been no incidents related to COVID, no cancellations, no anything, so that's excellent. One small issue I was asked to bring forth, there's evidently an ice cream man plaguing Ossian Hall. I guess this guy will drive up while there are games being played on this field and blast his ice cream man music, which causes players on the field to just sort of freeze and stop what they're doing, which creates some dangerous situations. There are balls flying in the air and what have you. I don't know how we police rogue ice cream men, but I was asked to bring that to everyone's attention. I believe there's some sort of permit requirement to actually vend on park property. But again, I don't know how we do that. There was an incident where a person was nearly very seriously injured when play ground to a halt, and ball was in the air heading toward this kid. And yeah. Anyway, that's it for lacrosse. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, is that one of the places that we have police and school security at?
Yes, we have them there Monday through Friday, but I don't know if Kurt can speak to the park authority or Vicky can speak to the school when vendors are there and what they can and cannot do.
Yeah, if I can jump in right now. Vendors, the county and Fairfax County Public Schools has agreed that vendors can visit the fields, but if they're disruptive, that is a police matter, I would say, with their music, with their ice cream music playing. I believe the field that they're referring to is not an FCPS field. Is that correct? That's a park authority.
That's
so
correct.
I would suggest to the group that they call Fairfax County, because there is a noise ordinance that they could fall under. So, but if it does occur on Fairfax County Public Schools, by all means, let me know. And we will have our security go out and change the situation. We had a situation in Hutchinson today that the vendor, the food truck came in and they were setting up tables and a whole 9 yards there at Hutchinson. And we're going to allow that, but now they're legally paying rent, for us because they're there for 8 hours setting up in the parking lot. So we're really cracking down with that. If they roll through, we're good, because it's serving the community and we're in agreement that, as long as they're permitted and meet all the standards for Fairfax County Health Department, we're okay. But setting up shop is a different story. But in the case of the music, the ice cream man music, we would definitely approach that.
We need an ice cream subcommittee.
The same for park authority. We would make sure it's permitted, obviously. And I don't believe they have a permit for that, but it depends on where they're vending. If they're vending from the parking lot, that's one thing. If they're vending from that street or that road, that's another thing. So we may not be able to control that, but we should be able to stop their music, or at least tell them if they're going to do it, turn down the music.
I believe the parking lot at Ossian Hall basically abuts the field. There's maybe 50 yards of space from the parking lot and no barrier, and music was super loud from what I understand.
Do you know if it was is it constantly every day or is it a specific day of the week? Because
this was one particular incident I was informed of on Sunday 2 weeks ago, I believe.
Okay. Because yeah, we do have police and school security or school police for that site. We can just let them know, and we can Kurt, I'll get with Britta to see make sure there's a permit and everything for that food truck or the ice cream truck.
Great, thank you.
Yep, no worries.
Hey, this is Gary. I just have a comment. I'm sure what Mark is talking about is the noise, disrupting and becoming a safety issue. I think he still would like to have the vendors on site because the kids love it. It's just a matter of somebody official that can come out there, like a school security or somebody from Kurt's staff that goes out there and says, hey, look, this is a safety issue. Turn the music down, or we're going to have to ask you not to come back. Is that a correct statement? Because I know my guys, they love having ice cream trucks come by. We just tell them turn the music down.
I don't think anybody has any objection at all to the ice cream man. I think it was just the loud music, halted play, young kids on the field, they hear the ice cream man, their attention is immediately drawn away from what they're doing, which in this particular case created a dangerous situation. So
absolutely. Okay.
I don't think anybody objects to ice cream, especially as it gets warmer.
All right. Soccer Council, Lula and Trish.
So we've talked about this before about the referee issues. We still continue to have such amazing, incredible referee shortages. Um, Bill, are you still on? Bill Kerr.
I am here.
Bill, so I just wanted to bring to your attention, it's all over YouTube, social media, the situation that happened at West Springfield,
I'm
my
aware.
high school. Okay.
It actually happened at Fairfax, so it took place at Fairfax. High
Oh, it
School.
was at Fairfax,
It's
but it
Fairfax
was,
versus West Springfield, but it was at Fairfax High School.
okay, yeah, West Springfield. So
Um,
it was a referee thing, and so it's now being used as an example as to, no wonder we have a referee shortage. But anyway, I wanted to bring that to your attention, to let you know that it's grown legs, and to see, and I'm glad to hear that you're aware of it.
So if you want, now's a good time to share where we are with that, and I can update, brief the council real quick. So what Lula is referring to is, we had a situation, I think it was last Monday at this point, or last Tuesday night, where last 2 minutes of the game, a penalty kick. There was, if I have the situation around it right, there was a sense that there were 2 balls on the field during the penalty kick, and the officials didn't pick, the referees on the field didn't pick up on it or whatever. That wasn't the issue, but Fairfax scored a goal. Obviously the West Springfield side wasn't very happy about it. The coach, one of the assistant coaches, ran directly onto the field, and that shortly after that, a group of parents were very vocal, and then a parent took it too far and was very, very vocal. And you can YouTube it and see it all over the place. The video was actually shot by a referee. It was by a soccer official. The school has addressed this directly with the coach, and the coach has reached out to the entirety of the community, but as we've also dealt with it with regards to what the expectations are, and I really can't say much more regarding that piece, but we have addressed this directly with the coach, who has committed his life to soccer as a younger guy, understands exactly the ramifications of his behavior and how that draws other things into it. The spectators and parent community, the administration from West Springfield has addressed that, along with the individual. It's about as far as I'll go down that road, but it has been directly addressed with the individual and the community in general. And again, with all our schools, we reference this back out. I spoke directly to the head of our Soccer Officials Association the next day when it first came to my attention that next morning. And he and I were very much in agreement with the course we were following. We continued to build out a better communication plan so that we know, and my office particularly knows of situations if they were to occur, rather than finding out the way we did. So it can be addressed immediately. Obviously, this is not something we would tolerate. We, especially from our staff, our staff and our players, we control and have a direct response to. Sometimes the fans are a little bit more of a challenge. The protocol in place would be the officials would immediately notify the game manager who was on the field, who would deal directly with the individual or the disturbance, and go as far as to stop the game if needed. The officials, at least what was related to me, was with less than 2 minutes left in the game. In order to get that done would take, by the time that was going to be completed, the game was over. And so the officials chose to continue to go. And I'm not putting that on the officials. I can understand it was quicker to move on than it was to immediately address or to get the game manager over to it. All of our games have game managers. There was a long discussion today at the DSA meeting. Some of our districts have policy where they have an administrator at all the away games. Some don't. That is a principal policy that they do through the district. It's not a division-wide policy. That takes superintendent action to do. So at this point, we've asked the principals to handle that, and we have traditionally for many years. We've asked them to review that, to have an administrator on their sideline for away games at particular sports. This is a trend we've seen all year. We've seen it within FCPS with regards to our spectators and frankly our players. Although we've trended better than the state with regards to our players, frankly. The state has had major issues throughout the state of behavior related to unsportsmanlike conduct. And again, I'm somewhat happy that we have not followed quite the trend the rest of the state has. And we've seen this across the nation. This year's unusual. Everyone came out. Everyone got out again and needed to be reminded how we behave and how we compete with each other, not against each other. And we continue to send that message both to our coaches and our players. So, just sum it up and tie this in a knot is we address the issues to the detail and specific, and we address the issues on the broader sense, and we work very closely with our officials association and are in I believe, in a good place with our officials association from our position.
Thank you, Bill. I was looking and hoping for that that follow-up, because once it's on the internet, I mean, everybody just passing along, crazy parents. I mean, it just blew up the internet. But I'm glad that we have this recorded meeting that you spoke to, how you've handled it. So thank you for that. So that's it for my report. Unless Trish, you have anything?
No, we just have lots of kids. The PTAs are back, so we lost 2 game fields this coming Saturday. Some little kids are going to have to wake up early Saturday morning to get their games in because we've run out of field space. But I'm so happy to see them all out there. And our head referee assigner is doing due diligence, holding referee classes as much as he can. So we are severely warning our parents on the sideline, be on your best behavior. Don't cause any of these new refs to quit.
Thank you, Trish.
That's all. Vicky, you have your hand raised. Is that an old hand?
Sorry, yes.
Okay, no worries. I just want to make sure you didn't have a question. All right. Next is Volleyball Council, Anne Marie.
Oh, I don't have a report for today. All good.
All right. That's it, Lula.
Okay, perfect. Matters of interest, school board.
Hey, I'm back again. Hopefully a little bit lighter. I will say on a positive note, after speaking with the head of the High School Officials Association, the Mid-Atlantic Officials Association, or Officials Association, who oversees our soccer officials, they have actually seen an increase. He said it's not made up for what they lost, but they're trending a little bit better, and we're seeing some of the same in some of the officials associations. Just a small increase, uptick in the training that's coming in. Still have a lot to gain because they lost. Some of them lost as much as 50% of their regular high school staffs, which also those high school officials often do multiple levels and multiple games. We're in the midst of our spring season, and it's rolling fast. We are continuing to move on the big picture. We are continuing to move forward, and Megan wanted me to share that she's absolutely still committed to moving forward the initiative to put in the permanent bathrooms in the high school facilities. And so we've gone as far as, a basic design and presentation that looking at regarding to the breaking it down to what the funding would look like and where that would be. I do not have a timeline. I do not have a total cost. I do have that the 2 boards, the Board of Supervisors and the school board, continue to work. And you see, I'm just going to keep this all positive news for the rest of the night. So they continue to work really, really hard and committed to this issue that we'll see permanent bathrooms on our stadiums across the entire county and all 25 of our stadium facilities, which would be adjacent and somewhat accessible by all of our fields that are open to community use. That's probably the biggest thing I have to share. It's been a whirlwind of a day and a whirlwind of a week, so I'm trying to think if there was any other major news. Obviously, we named a new superintendent. So Dr. Reed will be our new superintendent. She'll begin July 1st. It's somewhat exciting for me as she does have a background as an athletic director as well. So that'll bring either a whole nother great positive perspective or a whole different level of supervision, which we'll see where that goes. And many of you may applaud that at this point. So we'll see where this goes. But we're pretty excited to have her on board. All things being equal, it's good to be done with this beforehand and be able to move forward a little bit. So that's what I have. I don't know if my colleagues from the county, in the school system, if Vicky or Paul have anything else.
Very good. All right, then. Moving right along to Park Authority.
All right. As you seems like the spring season's going along pretty well. We're managing to get things done in the midst of a lot of lack of staff. We were down quite a few positions in the field side, and we've had to supplement other ways to get some of this stuff done, but we seem to be managing. And then the project updates, I know that Jason's bringing it up. Just a quick thing, everything's in green. Patriot North, we're about 45% complete now. That's moving along, and you can see the fence projects that we did at Franconia, Franklin Farm, Reston North, and Greenbrier are done. Greenbrier, we are still waiting on an irrigation pump. Is that same phrase everybody's heard for the last year and a half? Supply chain issues. So hopefully we'll get that pump in before summer and when we actually really need the water. But other than that, everything else seems to be on schedule. I guess FCPS, the high school synthetic replacements are still scheduled. On schedule. We haven't heard anything different. We are working with Nike 4 at Great Falls with the user group there to make sure the funding's in place so that we can start that on time. Worst case scenario, if we don't have the funding in place, we will have to push that back, and they're aware of that, to the fall replacement. So we're trying to get them to get their funding squared away before we can start that project. Other than that, that's it. I think everything else is going fairly well for us.
Very good. Thank you so much. Neighborhood and Community Services?
And don't have a whole lot more to say other than the issue at the beginning and the issue that's about to be presented that we're working on. So that's we don't have anything else to report right now.
Thank you so much. New business. Girls softball?
Hey there. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear me again. I'm outside. I appreciate the APRT report being sent. So if anybody had an opportunity just to kind of scan it, it was done in 2007, and what it was based on was inequities in the girls to boys diamonds. So it was a wonderful collaborative effort with the Board of Supervisors, the community, NCS. I mean, it was tremendous. And if you did look through it, it's like about 17, 18 pages. And it was wonderful because it identified needs and those needs actually were met. So one of the major things was tournament complexes. So we had Louise Archer, Falls Church, South Lakes were created to help. So beef up the number of fields for the girls and allow for tournaments in addition to the way park. So we've been going along, things have been going pretty well, but in the past 5 months with the school renovations, we have lost a field at Louise Archer. Falls Church is going to get almost completely wiped out. South Lakes, for instance, number 3 was just poured in a whole bunch of money in that. And I won't even go, and I'll go into a little bit the millions that were poured into Falls Church High School. But South Lakes was just upgraded. Number 3 for the girls softball. And I had a team there last night, and the football team was there, going to do 7-on-7 games in practice. And it was a couple of weeks earlier, the girls softball, in addition with HRYS, were told, hey, please stay off the grass because we want to make sure it's set. So again, money poured into that. And as you can see, the major improvements, things that went on are pretty much blown to bits. And then I could go on to the turf fields. There's 8 turf fields for the boys, and there's 1 for the girls. And actually that is an overlay at a high school. So access is at 7:30 at night and multiple things going on with soccer. So then I look at the sports tourism. Wow, a lot of money was poured into sports tourism to identify such needs. And then here we are taking huge step backwards. So I would request a motion be made, and I would hope I'd have the support of the Athletic Council to have a letter sent to the Board of Supervisors to get this APRT committee reestablished, and so we can really get some answers as to what's going on. And then I have one additional comment I would like to make regarding the story of Falls Church High School, which kind of is an indication of everything that's been going on. But again, I would love a motion, and I'd love to support Athletic Council to reestablish the APRT commission so we can get a handle back on what's going on. So.
Thank you, Susie, for that. Boy, oh boy, I was writing down as you were talking 4 and then 8 and 1. That's staggering. And then you have another story. But right now, it looks like Karen, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just want to give everybody a little bit of background. Oh, the APRT Action Plan Review Team was established in 2007 to address inequities in the condition of fields boys baseball versus girls softball, and we made tremendous strides. We developed a plan, like women, FCPS, FCPA, NCS, Board of Supervisors, Athletic Council. We were all on a committee, and we made tremendous strides to upgrade the girls' fields to bring it to a equitable, proportional quality of the boys, and we declared equity at the end of that. It was a long process, 7 or 8 years, and we did it. And so I think what Susie's asking, and we've been working with her on some issues. We have taken some step backwards since 2007. And so she's asking for that group, and I think she has NCS's support as well as Chris Leonard's support in asking for that group to be reconvened to just look at what has happened since 2000 and see if we can't ensure that there's either still equity, or if there's not, what's the plan to achieve it. We have, the girls softball has lost taken some pretty big hits on some of the complexes, so we need to just take a look. I think that's what her motion is for the council. So yeah, Mark.
Yeah, I just want to comment a little bit back in history where I think coordination is crystal clear in this in reference to the synthetic turf fields. The initial, when Waters Field was done, we partnered and offered the softball community to turf their fields, and as one huge complex versus just the overlay. They came back and said their game did not really was conducive to the synthetic turf. Of course, a lot of that has changed, and I think it's important to coordinate from the softball community. Either you want it or you don't want it, or how do you want it? Do you want it partial? You want it full? That was absent because a decade later, people now change their mind where it's pretty much out there. So it's important that it's not just a one faction, that it's the entire sport, that this is the standard they would like, where and when possible, in support of this. As you know, we were all behind the initial effort. This was a very good thing, but keep in mind, everybody needs to be on board, not just the pockets that have the voice. You know, does the sport want synthetic turf? They want natural, or what do they want? They want a combination of both. What is there? So I just point that out as going forward to make sure that everybody's going in one direction, so you can maximize the effort and the funds.
Yeah, I agree, Mike, and I think the turf field is just. I think that's the least of their worries. Out of that APRT report, three complexes were built: Madison, South Lakes, and Falls Church for the girls. And since 2007, they've lost 2, 3, 4, 5 fields. And so that is the biggest issue. And so how do we come together and make that right? Right that wrong? And they lost them. I mean, not. I mean, for good reason. Like Falls Church, they're losing the fields because they need parking. We can't argue parking. So, but don't just take that complex without a plan to replace it somewhere else. And so that's what I think Susie's asking, and Chris has asked me to bring this also to the council to just let's try to get. It's been since 2007. That group needs to take a look.
Again, I'm not looking to prioritize any little bits of this. The whole effort is important. but not let's make sure that everybody's going in one direction on what they want and how to best remedy and maximize the resources. That's all.
Yep, agree.
Very good. Yeah, I'm in favor. Does somebody like to make a motion?
Well, Gary's hand is up, I think, Gary.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just curious, do we need, I mean, Susie, your request was to make a motion to send a letter to the board. Do we need that, or can we, as the athletic council, just put the APRT back in place? Or do we need permission from the board for that? I don't know.
It was a board appointed committee, and since it was 2007, I think we need to do another request.
Then that's fine. I'll make a motion to send a letter to the board.
Second the motion.
Any objections? Oh, I can hear the background, Susie. So
Yeah,
moved.
sorry.
No. Sounds like a good game. So moved. All right,
Okay,
with that said-
yeah.
Go ahead,
So
Susie.
I just, one other thing I wanted to mention. And it was really interesting for me to listen to the frustrations earlier about the user groups and lack of communication. So I want to tell you the story of Falls Church High School and frustration, and kind of Mark going to your thing about communication and pulling in the same direction. So it was around November. We knew that Falls Church was going to go under renovation. We knew that. And it doesn't take a brain scientist to figure out, oh, that might impact the fields. So started kind of conversations, trying to get an idea what's going to go on with the fields, trying to get ahead of it. I was given assurances, end of November, December, assurances. Everything was going to stay the same. None of the fields were going to be touched due to the report and the spirit of things. Even in that conversation, I even said, hey, I understand about the parking. We could, if one field need to go, I understand that. Because we need to be, we're a community. We need to work together. So assurance is given. Now it's getting end of February. I'm hearing some rumblings that no, that might not be the case. So March 3rd, I sent an email to people that would know. My frustration. Could I get some answers? Could somebody please talk to me? Let me know what's going on. It was met with silence. I continued to hear further rumblings that, yeah, guess what, Susie? It's just not the one field. We are actually going to put a tennis court on the JV lit field. So now what used to be a 4-field complex will be a single complex. Again, March 24th, I sent an email. Hey, the lack of engagement, kind of losing some trust here because nobody will talk to me. Would somebody please answer what is going on at Falls Church? The next thing I hear, hey, guess what, Susie? School board, yeah, it's a done deal. Parking is going to go on field. Field is now going to be a tennis court. That's how it works. I'm sorry, I would expect better. Silence. And to this day, I still have not had one person in authority contact me on behalf of the softball community to say what is going on. No ability for any of this. And that's why we're frustrated. And it just perfectly dovetails what was being felt earlier in the call. So I request a meeting with all the powers that be as well. What's going on? What is the plan? That's all. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Susie, I can certainly tell you're frustrated. I'm so sorry with the background noise, and then there was some whistle blowing. but I can certainly hear your frustration. So I'm going to call you so we can, we can talk about this because I missed half of it. I apologize. But Mark, you have your hand up. Did you want to ask a question?
I thought my hand was down. Okay. I thought it was the ice cream truck that was making all the noise.
Yeah, Susie, thank you for that. And your motion has been approved and we'll move forward with that as soon as possible. It is the ice cream. No, it's the train. With that said, if we, moving on to old business, is there any old business anybody would like to bring up?
Gary, you got your hand raised?
Yeah, I just have two quick comments because Mike Thompson's not on. And just to piggyback on Kurt's report, I had a meeting with Melissa Emery from on the Patriot Park North and got a tour of the facility out there. They are on target to meet the August deadline for the 40% build and then the remainder by December. All very good news. We just need to keep our fingers crossed that we have limited rain this summer so they can get everything done. And then on a second note, on the sports tourism task force, I did see that Pat Harity announced that the EAC approved the recommendation to the board to pursue the PPP for sports tourism development. And I certainly, Susie, will keep that in mind since I'm on that task force to bring up facilities that involve women's sports. And I do know that has been brought up as part of the sports tourism effort. But I just wanted to share that. I thought Mike might want to share it, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks for that. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I would love to second that motion.
Any objections? So move. Great meeting, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Signing off.